Yo, I know the sound may not be the greatest right now, but just wanted to chop it up. Hope y'all boys and girls being safe out there, man. It's a crazy world. Hope y'all somewhere quietly kept safe and receptive. I've been thinking about my ancestry lately. Just psychologically, just pondering. Randomly, I would look in the mirror and I would see my grandfather. So I've been thinking about my grandparents, particularly on my dad's side. And I have a theory about my dad's side of the family. I believe there's a lot of mysticism that comes with the Solomon name. That is hardly ever spoken, but deeply understood and carried over from one soul to another due to that Solomon name. You know what I mean? All the men on my dad's side of the family are ex-military men, so there's a certain stability that comes along with that. There's a certain expectation, that comes along with that. I even observe it in just how I move today even, you know what I'm saying? But the men in my dad's side, on my dad's side of the fam, they're low key, don't ever really speak like my papa, for instance, rest in peace. My papa, you know, and sidebar, my grandparents' death just now started to affect me as of recently, you know. Where I didn't realize how much that fucked me up when it happened. In my early teens, you know what I'm saying? That's when they passed. And well, my papa and then my grandmother, maybe in my early 20s, but my papa, for instance, was a man that did not speak. Everybody in the family knew he was gonna stay in his room. Even on the holidays when everybody over there celebrating this shit, my papa would be in his room. He ain't out there parlaying, even being around. Like, you wanna talk to my papa, you gotta go in his room and talk to him. But every now and again when I go over my grandma's house or whatever, before he passed, he would open the door sometimes, you know what I'm saying? And he would crack a joke with me, like telling me how, you know, he could beat me in basketball in one-on-one, you know, because at that time, you know, it was well known that I was hooping or whatever, and my papa would like crack jokes and stuff like that, and he would wish me a lot, you know, like he would ask me, so you gonna go to the league, you know what I'm saying? He was just, every now and again, you know what I'm saying, I catch him, open the door, he would chop it up with me for a little bit, then go right back to his room. And I also been seeing my grandmother a lot. Hold on real quick. But yeah, so I also been seeing my grandmother a lot. Like just now, I saw my grandmother and my grandfather, like just in my mind's eye. I saw them standing beside me, and I've been feeling their presence around me. And even before, not too long ago, I had been contemplating, like, man, who were my parents before I was here? Who were my parents' parents? What kind of people were they? You know? as an adult, you start to see your parents as people, not parents, but as, oh, oh shit, you just a person, man. Whatever, whatever. Like, same way for all the rest of your family members, siblings, whatever. At least that's what I did. But yeah, I've been thinking about my ancestry and what kind of, like, what's in my blood. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is in me that, like, that is showing, whether I know it or not. Like, what am I presenting that I'm unaware of, that's in my blood? And what comes with that, right? What are my expectations in this life? What are my responsibilities in this life? Just based on genetics. And I like to explore those things psychologically, of course. Sorry, parched. So, as I was saying, I like to explore those things, those questions psychologically. And my sensitivity allows me to practically do so. Right? So there's sensitivity that's in my blood that I believe comes from my dad's side of the family, specifically from the men. Not the women, because on both sides of my family, it's women ruled. You know what I'm saying? Women are the head honchos in my family. The men are, like I said, they're ex-military, so they're manly men, but they're highly introverted. So it's like a weird as in unusual, right? Weird as in unique. It's like a unique relationship that the men have with themselves, with their own company. And maybe somewhere along the lines it got to me when I was born. Comes with that Solomon name, you know. The S comes with the Solomon name, you know. There's a lot of inheritance that's attached to the last name Solomon. Particularly with the men. There will be, or this is my theory, right? I'm theorizing, I'm musing this. I'm not saying this is factual. I'm not saying I understand or know that any of this is true. I'm imagining all of this. But somewhere along the lines, when I was born, that unique relationship that the men in my family have with themselves will ultimately give birth to some sort of like vision of the world. And I believe I have that. I believe that's my role in the scheme of the men in my family, right? Particularly on my dad's side. Now, my like I said, my grandmother, like, my nickname is Bud, right? Like, if you grow up with a nickname, most likely, if it's genuine, that name was given to you. You don't pick your nickname. Like, your family give that to you, or your friends, or whatever. My grandmother never called me by my government name my whole life. Literally never. She never acknowledged me as Tony, ever. Not once. She only called me Bud. B-U-D, Bud. She's the only person who calls me that I can be like, yeah. Yeah, that's me, right? My grandmother she was a Virgo, like me. My grandmother was the shit. She is the shit. Even in heaven, she probably up there like cooking for people, playing the piano, you know, because my grandmother was a musician, right? So I miss my grandmother so much, you know what I'm saying? Like I said earlier, like I just recently acknowledged the impact losing both of my grandparents had on me. And man, I shed some tears. It was beautiful to feel that warmth, even in thought of thinking of my grandparents. But yeah, my grandmother, love my grandmother, I miss her. So yeah, and it trickled down to me. And then my dad. My dad is also just like my papa, his son, his father and son. My dad is extremely private. Like my dad, my father is a very private man. I'll let it pass. So yeah, my father is a very private individual. You know what I'm saying? Ex-military, of course. He's very private. I still I can't even describe my dad's personality other than he's quiet. You know what I'm saying? And I can list a bunch of descriptives or adjectives, but to really get the core, the root of him, of his personality, I wouldn't be able to do it. I just wouldn't. Just can't. Other than he's a very quiet man. He's also very stable. He's stable within his routine and his structure. It speaks to his military experience, right? But yeah, I don't know what this white. It's toothpaste. It's not what you think it is, alright? Relax. So yeah, speaking of that, my dad had me, right? With a woman that's also very difficult to describe. Other than spicy. She's fiery. My mom is fire. She's a firecracker. But she's also very forward thinking and progressive in her thought. She's also very philosophical. Right? And they had me. So I'm like this concentrated version of all these people that I just spoke of. Right now. And it's because of my sensitivity, I'm even able to align that imagination, that trail like that. So it kind of don't matter if it's true or not what I'm saying. It don't matter. The fact that I can imagine that in and of itself makes it what it is. But yeah, I would encourage you guys who haven't really sat down and explored your imagination, your memory, your own memory of your childhood and what the people you grew up was like before you came into the picture. Maybe think, if you can, right? Try to imagine who your grandparents, I say if you can, if your grandparents, if you had a relationship, right? But even if not, we're using our imagination, so that don't even matter. Just ignore that, what I just said. I want you to try to go into that nook and corner of your psyche and memory and try to imagine who your people was like before you got here. Imagine who they were as individuals. Collect your imagination to remember specific parts of your childhood that stick out to you in terms of the character of the people who raised you. And try to concentrate it down to you and where you are and study that trail in between. So that's a little homework, right? What is art therapy? Confess, express, or suppress? See you later.